In this podcast episode, Jordan Peterson explores the complexities of human interaction, particularly focusing on the dynamics of dating, attention, and the underlying psychological and philosophical frameworks that shape behavior. He delves into the distinction between short-term and long-term mating strategies, the significance of aim in directing attention, and the dark personality traits that can manifest in social relationships. Furthermore, Peterson examines the biblical narratives of Cain and Abel to illustrate themes of sacrifice, resentment, and maturation. Throughout, he weaves psychological research with cultural and religious reflections to illuminate the moral and existential dimensions underpinning our choices and interactions. Peterson begins by setting the scene of a first date in a noisy, bustling restaurant, using it as a metaphor for the complexity of human social engagement. He describes how, during conversation, people naturally synchronize their movements and patterns of attention, creating a dance that reflects mutual engagement and understanding. This dance is a test of one's ability to attend to others amid distraction, anxiety, and competing stimuli. Social anxiety, he explains, often arises from self-consciousness, which is indistinguishable from anxiety itself. The solution, counterintuitively, is not to focus less on oneself, but to increase attention to the other, fostering a connection that alleviates anxiety by breaking the inward spiral of self-preoccupation. Transitioning to the biological basis of human mating behavior, Peterson outlines the evolutionary rationale for sexual reproduction, emphasizing that humans are a low reproduction rate, high parental investment species. Unlike species that produce many offspring with minimal care, humans invest heavily in few children over a long period, requiring cooperative pair bonding and multi-generational support. He contrasts this with low-investment, mating strategies characterized by hedonism and short-term gratification, which prioritize immediate pleasure over long-term relational stability and growth. These divergent strategies frame how individuals approach dating and relationships, with aim shaping attention and actions accordingly. Peterson turns to psychological research on personality traits associated with manipulative and exploitative behavior, known as the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Narcissists seek undeserved attention without undertaking the effort to earn it, often mimicking competence and confidence. Machiavellians manipulate others instrumentally, seeing them as means to personal ends, analogous to a con artist or used car salesman prioritizing gain over fairness. Psychopaths combine cold calculation with a lack of regard for others, often leading to predatory, parasitic lifestyles. Later research added a fourth dimension, sadism, defined as deriving positive pleasure from others' suffering, completing what is called the dark tetrad. These dark traits tend to correlate with a short-term mating strategy focused on immediate gratification and exploitation. A central theme is Peterson's assertion that every glance and act of attention serves a master, our underlying aim or goal. If one's aim is short-term pleasure, the spirit directing their attention is aligned with the dark traits previously described. This has profound implications for how we evaluate ourselves and others. The environment and experiences we engage in reflect and reinforce these aims, thus shaping character. Peterson stresses that aim is not incidental but fundamental in determining actions and their consequences, and thus moral and existential outcomes. Peterson employs the biblical story of Cain and Abel as a symbolic framework to contrast two fundamental modes of human behavior. Abel represents the aim that strives upward, offering one's best through sacrifice and commitment. Cain, by contrast, offers second-rate effort, driven by resentment and entitlement when his offering is rejected. Cain's subsequent bitterness and defiance lead to fratricide, illustrating the devastating effects of misdirected aim and the creative union with sin, defined as missing the mark. This dichotomy exemplifies the choice between maturity and immaturity, sacrifice and exploitation, and the consequences of each path. The discussion extends to the deeper significance of sacrifice in human life, particularly within the Judeo-Christian tradition. Sacrifice is equated with work, the investment of present effort for the benefit of the future and community. The highest sacrifice involves offering one's best, even to the point of self-sacrifice, as exemplified by the story of Abraham and the crucifixion in Christian theology. Such sacrifice lies at the foundation of societal order and freedom, fostering responsibility instead of tyranny. This sacrificial responsibility enables community cohesion and the possibility of reciprocal relationships built on trust and mutual development. Peterson explores maturity as the capacity to extend one's planning horizon and incorporate others' well-being into decision-making. Childhood impulsivity is gradually regulated to align behavior with social reciprocity and deferred gratification. He notes that mature individuals consider consequences over varying temporal spans, weekly, yearly, even generational, while coordinating actions to contribute positively to family and community. This reflects a harmony between self-interest and communal responsibility, an ideal toward which healthy human development aspires. Contrasting short-term mating strategies, Peterson frames love as a communal, reciprocal orientation characterized by care, honesty, and encouragement. Love balances protection with the encouragement to grow and develop, embodying an aim higher than mere immediate pleasure. In romantic and long-term relationships, this manifests through mutual respect, measured progression, and a shared commitment to growth. He asserts that treating others as oneself, fundamental to Christian ethics, is an optimization of self-interest that harmonizes with communal flourishing. Addressing the relationship between speech and morality, Peterson shares his experience of wrestling with God through the careful weighing of words, emphasizing the difficulty and terror of speaking truthfully. He reflects on the biblical imagery of paradise barred by a fiery turning sword, representing the necessity of moral fitness to enter a realm of order and goodness. Lies, by contrast, contribute to chaos and tyranny, with totalitarianism seen as a manifestation of universal, persistent falsehood. The courage to speak truth, even in hostility or difficulty, is posited as foundational to personal and social salvation. When discussing forgiveness, Peterson describes it as a complex process involving confession, repentance, and atonement. He stresses the importance of mutual accountability and the negotiation of what is required to repair relationships genuinely. He also distinguishes forgiveness from passive acceptance of harm, emphasizing the need to understand one's own role in conflict to prevent recurrence. Healing after moral injury demands a profound understanding of evil, self-awareness, and a philosophical outlook robust enough to confront one's darker actions and motives. Responding to a question about raising children in church without parental religious conviction, Peterson encourages parents to expose their children to the fundamental cultural narratives of the West, particularly those embedded in Judeo-Christian tradition. He acknowledges imperfections in religious institutions, but underscores the importance of engaging with the community and its practices as a foundation for the child's moral and existential development. He advocates for active participation in restoring and reclaiming these cultural spaces rather than abandoning them, highlighting the risks inherent in ceding ground to detrimental ideologies. Finally, Peterson reflects on the biblical concept of logos as the creative ordering principle within chaos and possibility, symbolized by the waters before creation. Humans, made in the image of this logos, carry the responsibility to bring order out of chaos through deliberate action and aim. Participation in this creative process entails bearing the burdens of existence and moral decision-making, striving toward love and truth as guiding ideals. This framework roots human dignity and intrinsic worth in active engagement with the world, emphasizing the gravity of individual and collective aims.